Dr. Michael Tyler Mazer, hooded by Dr. Lawrence David Mazer.
You face the future with your heads held high because you are now doctors.
That's a great movie, you guys. If you haven't seen Patch Adams, you definitely need to watch that movie, preferably before medical school, but definitely before the time that you become a physician. But anyways, guys, I did it. I graduated medical school. I am so incredibly happy for this huge accomplishment that I've been working for essentially my entire life. I've always wanted to be a doctor, specifically an emergency medicine doctor. But I did it. I graduated this past weekend. My parents came out, my wife came out. We had a great time kind of celebrating. And then coming back here to Utah, we had another celebration here with my in-laws and some family friends. Oh, guys, but I did it. It feels so relieving. But honestly, I want to thank everyone who played a part in me becoming a physician, family, friends, you guys on social media, my preceptors who graciously agreed to teach me and to have me on shift, and they didn't receive anything. Most preceptors don't receive any sort of monetary compensation. So just so happy and grateful for every one of you that ever played a part in my life or me becoming a doctor. This is definitely a team win and a team effort. Nobody becomes a physician by themselves. So if you are up and coming, whether you're pre-med or in medical school already, you need to recognize that this is not your doing. This is a group effort. And there's no way we could become doctors without the people surrounding us. So big thank you and shout out to everyone out there who played a role in me graduating medical school and now being an emergency medicine physician. Now, I know this is my graduation video and you guys already saw the best part, which was me, getting hooded by my dad and graduating. But I did want to mention something super important. So if you guys don't want to watch this part of the video, you guys already saw the best part, but I did want to talk about self-motivation because it's impossible to become a doctor if you are not self-motivated. You can't rely on other people to motivate you to going through this entire process. It is such a long and grueling process that you have to know why you want to become a doctor. And it can be as simple as you enjoy medicine or you want to create a stable lifestyle for your family. It doesn't have to be this long, extravagant response or answer or things that you think medical schools want you to say. And I know for many of us, we are just following in the footsteps of our parents. And that's something that's very common in any sort of field. It doesn't have to just be medicine. It can be anything that your parents do. I feel like a lot of children follow in their parents' footsteps. So you need to know why you want to be a doctor, why you're going into medicine. And that's going to help drive that self-motivation that you need to study those long hours and to take 8-hour exams, to wake up at 3 and 4 in the morning for your surgical rotations, because nobody's going to be there to really hold your hand. If you don't do the things, then you're just gonna fail. They're gonna kick you out of school and it's just not gonna happen. So self-motivation is one of the most important things that you need to have in order to become a physician. And as I've reached this milestone of graduating medical school, it's made me kind of reminisce and reflect on all of the little things that pushed me to going to medical school. Some of the earliest memories I have of medicine were going to high school football games and standing on the sidelines with my dad, who volunteered to be the team physician at one of the local high schools. And I always thought it was the coolest thing when a player would get injured on the field and my dad would just take off onto the field to go out and see how he could help that injured player. It was things like that to, neighbors and friends asking to come to our home, and my dad would suture up a family friend on our kitchen table. I mean, those are the little things that I grew up seeing and that motivated me to go to medical school and want to be a doctor. And now that I've reached that milestone of, now being a doctor, I'm definitely more motivated than ever to start giving back to the people that are coming up, to the pre-med students, to the medical students. I want to help as many people as I can reach this goal of being a doctor. And I think that's something that gets lost the longer you become a physician. Is that motivation to help the people behind you. And that's really frustrating because we all needed the help of other physicians in order to become a physician ourselves. We all needed letters of recommendation. We all needed preceptors to teach them about their specific specialty. We needed people to volunteer their time to help us become doctors. And so it's super frustrating when I see a doctor or a resident not very interested in teaching a medical student or letting a pre-med student let them shadow. So if you're in a position right now to lend a helping hand to a pre-med, to a med student, to a resident, maybe searching for a job, I encourage everyone out there to always look for opportunities to help other people, not just your patients, but the future doctors coming behind you. I made a video a few weeks ago about, finding mentors if you are a pre-med or a med student, or even a resident or a young attending physician, finding new mentors, getting as many mentors as you can, because it's a group effort. It's a team sport. We all need each other, and medicine is all about networking. So look for those new mentors, if you're needing more guidance on this long journey. My email is down in the description. If you guys are interested in emergency medicine, I'm more than happy to help anyone out that wants to go into that field. I do offer pre-med advising via my Facebook page, Med School Mentor. So if you're a pre-med and are looking for good quality advice from someone who's been in your shoes, definitely shoot me a message on Facebook, Med School Mentor, because I know even for myself, when I was a pre-med student, the pre-med advisors, they're not good at what they do. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the truth. They, for the most part, haven't gone to medical school. They haven't done the pre-med curriculum. They're basically just going off of, a set list of things that you need to do. And everyone is very different. Everyone's situation is very different. Everyone has different grades. Everyone has different, circumstances at home, financial issues. So it's not a very cookie cutter way to give advice. And that's kind of what these pre-med advisors are doing at these universities. So if you want someone who's going to take your situation seriously, then definitely reach out to me on Facebook and we will get you hopefully into medical school. Guys, it's so surreal that I'm done with medical school. It's just something that I've wanted to do my entire life. And it's just crazy that these last 4 years have just flown by. It just seems like yesterday I was getting my acceptance for med school and then COVID hit. My first year of medical school, it was COVID. So a lot of our stuff was online. Lectures were via Zoom. We weren't really doing anatomy lab. I don't think we did anatomy lab until my second year. And even then they were like, this is pretty much kind of optional. If you want to do it, cool. If you don't, no big deal. Other than that, we did anatomy lab via Zoom. So they had a camera in the anatomy lab and we were just watching on Zoom. So very different times than hopefully you guys are experiencing right now or will in the future. And then, I was studying for step 1. I ended up postponing my step 1 because I just did not feel prepared. I was not scoring well on my MBMEs. And then I took my COMLEX. So I was taking 2 sets of boards for both step 1 and step 2. So I did my COMLEX 1 and COMLEX 2. And then before I knew it, I was setting up my own rotations out here in Salt Lake City for my 3rd year. And that was a challenge in and of itself. I chose to do it. My school had placements in place for students that didn't want to find their own rotations. But my wife and I wanted to be close to family. We wanted to live in a comfortable, safe environment, a place that we already knew. And I did most of my third year rotations at the hospital that I worked at as a pre-med student. So I felt very comfortable. I already had those connections, so I knew a lot of the physicians. My father-in-law, who's a cardiologist, helped me find a lot of my rotations with his own colleagues. It was just kind of a wild ride. And then, at the end of third year, you start using VSLO, which I also did a video on, like how to use it, the timelines, things like that. So if you have questions or interested in learning more about VSLO, go check out that video. But I was starting to set up my audition rotations in emergency medicine, trying to figure out, which places I wanted to explore further and in person. And it was very surprising, very eye-opening on my audition rotations, because I went to places that I was like, yeah, I definitely want to do residency at this place. And then I go and do my audition rotations and I'm like, you know what? This is not a great fit for me. So I'm definitely grateful that I did my auditions where I did them, because I probably wouldn't have been happy at some of those places. And I go into a lot more detail about this topic in that other video that I did on VSLO. So go check that out, and you'll kind of understand a little bit more about your audition rotations. So I finished my auditions and, I started applying to residencies. I applied to a ton. Kind of overkill, but I didn't have the best step 2 and complex level 2 scores. So I felt like I needed to apply to a lot more programs, and I'm really glad I did. And I got interviews at really good places, surprisingly. And it was weird because more of the less competitive places I didn't even hear back from, but kind of my reach programs, I started getting responses from and interviews from. So it's kind of a little bit eye-opening on, where you should apply. I think in general, it's good to apply to kind of reach programs that you maybe don't think you're going to get into, but you have nothing to lose. Just apply to them. There's some safety programs and then some programs kind of in the middle. But, I ended up matching at probably one of the best emergency medicine programs in the country, and I'm super pumped for that. It's just another reassuring thing that I was good enough for their program. I personally always knew I was good enough. I was a very strong applicant, but my entire life, it seems like my test taking and my scores were keeping me back. And that was an issue getting into medical school as well. So I was worried that, dang it, I didn't do good on my board scores, and now I'm going to struggle to get into residency. And that wasn't the case at all. Shout out to emergency medicine, honestly, because in emergency medicine, we just want to make sure that you're not going to annoy us at 2 or 3 in the morning when we're working together. It's so much more fun when you're working with people that you enjoy being around and you're friends with. It doesn't matter your knowledge level, like you're going to learn all of that stuff. You're essentially going to learn how to be a doctor in residency. So if you're worried about that and you're in medical school, like put that worry aside. You don't need to know too much before residency, because they're going to teach you everything you need to know about your specialty. But yeah, I matched. We were super pumped. If you didn't see my match day video, go check it out. And then now we're moving to Michigan. My wife and I, and we bought a house out there, just working on closing for that. And we just got back from graduation a few days ago. So everything is lining up just how it should be. And if you guys didn't know, the hardest part about becoming a doctor is getting into medical school, surprising enough. It's so hard to get into medical school. But once you're in, it is almost like smooth sailing, almost like 100% you're going to become a doctor, unless like some life issue arises in medical school, a loved one passes away, you need time off, stuff like that. Very rare cases, but other than that, you're going to become a doctor. I was talking to a pre-med student the other day, and he asked me if medical school is harder than undergrad. And my response was not at all. I thought undergrad was way harder than medical school. My reason being because I was not interested in organic chemistry, in physics, in math and all of those things that they require for medical school. Once I got into medical school, I was learning things that I've always wanted to learn, that I was interested in. You know, these are the things that I'm going to be needing to know for my patients for the rest of my life. And so it was so much easier to stay engaged and to learn the material. Now, I will say medical school is not easy. It is grueling, but honestly, it just takes that self-motivation, that self-dedication that I talked about at the beginning of the video. You have to be motivated to study and be responsible in order to do well on your medical school tests. And if you can be self-motivated and adapt to that new lifestyle of being a med student, knowing that your full-time job is to study and learn the material, then you guys are gonna be okay. Don't let anybody tell you guys that you can't do medical school or med school is like too expensive for you. We all take out loans. Don't let finances keep you from applying to medical school and becoming a doctor. We all are in debt. All of us are in debt unless you have like a rich parent or something like that, but most of us are in debt. So if you want to be a doctor, then be a doctor. You know, apply to DO schools. Apply to the Caribbean if you have to. If you want to be a doctor, that should not be something to keep you from being a doctor. I've worked with several great physicians that came from the Caribbean. It doesn't matter where you go to medical school. It really doesn't, because you have to learn the same material. You have to take the same board exams. You're going to be prepared the same exact way, no matter what. No matter if you're at an MD, a DO, a Caribbean, another foreign medical school, you have to take the same tests. That means you have to have the same knowledge base. The only issue with the foreign medical schools is trying to get a US residency. That's where the challenge is. But it's becoming more and more common for foreign grads to be able to get a US residency. So that's kind of another topic for another video on another day. Long story short, if you want to be a doctor, make it happen. Be self-motivated. Okay, guys? Sorry, this was a long-winded video, a big tangent. I just am like super pumped. I'm a doctor, guys. I'm an ER physician. So excited. I accomplished my goal. 3-year residency ahead of me. Super excited for that. I will keep you guys posted every step of the way. Make sure to subscribe to my channel. Give this video a like. Send it to everyone you know that needs to hear it. And I'll see you guys in another one of my videos.